Distinguished friends and esteemed fellow practitioners, a very warm good afternoon to each and every one of you. The highly anticipated and important speech is now about to commence. I am the honored host for today's important talk here. First, I would like to formally introduce today's distinguished guest speaker, the highly esteemed Khenpo Sodargye. As for myself and respected Khenpo, I first heard of Khenpo in the year 2010. That was indeed the first time I encountered him. In 2012, I was fortunate enough to meet Khenpo in person in Hong Kong. It has now been 4 full years since then. Over these 4 years of varied experiences and meaningful encounters, I truly feel that, compared to the great monks and masters we usually imagine, he is distinct and remarkably different. In terms of profound Buddhist teachings and extensive scriptures, Khenpo's attainments are exceptionally profound and truly remarkable. He is comprehensively and deeply well-versed in the entirety of the Tripitaka, demonstrating an extraordinary mastery of its vast knowledge. His deep spiritual realization is even more truly unfathomable today. At the same time, he is also someone who skillfully manages a very large monastic community worldwide successfully. You could even say he is a highly capable and spiritual entrepreneur indeed. Why is that? Because his daily work also involves many important things, such as building sturdy houses, finding suitable land, and arranging essential water and electricity supplies, and even negotiating with local vegetable farmers, holding meaningful talks and discussions regularly to carefully ensure that both the monastic and lay communities at the local Buddhist institute have their daily needs properly met. At the same time, I personally think he is also a very reliable and trustworthy friend indeed. I truly believe that everyone who is able to come to this sacred venue today must certainly have a very deep and profound karmic connection with Khenpo. In the future, in this very life, and even in all future lives to come, I believe everyone will truly have their own unique experiences. There's no need to elaborate further on this point. The topic of today's talk is widely known as the Stairway to the Pure Land. When the mind is pure, the land is pure. If the mind is not truly pure, what we experience may be all kinds of mental constraints and suffering daily. So how can we cultivate our minds well effectively? How can we gradually increase our confidence in being reborn in the Pure Land? Today, through various established theories and extensive practical experiences, we have gained a deeper understanding. The esteemed Khenpo will graciously guide us and impart profound wisdom on the intricate process of observing and understanding our own minds, thereby helping each of us to discover and ascend a spiritual stairway to the Pure Land. Now, at this moment, I would like to kindly request everyone present to please rise to their feet, and with a truly enthusiastic and warm round of applause, let us welcome him. Let us now respectfully invite the esteemed Khenpo to give us a precious teaching.
Hello everyone here this beautiful afternoon. Let us carefully utilize this precious and valuable time together to deeply reflect upon and thoughtfully engage in a comprehensive scholarly discussion regarding the profound and highly significant Buddhist text known as Stairway to the Pure Land. In Buddhism, we often say that it is indeed a very profound and sacred Buddhist practice of the time-honored ancient Pure Land Dharma gate tradition followed worldwide. This particular method of dedicated spiritual practice, I sincerely believe that most of you gathered here today are probably dedicated practicing Buddhists. There are also some other individuals who respectfully follow other spiritual faiths, and some individuals who do not yet possess a true and genuine faith in their hearts, but simply have a genuine interest in Buddhism or other spiritual religions. It's just a kind of personal hobby, really. No matter what cultural differences exist, for humanity as a whole worldwide, the fundamental wish to be completely free from suffering and attain true lasting happiness is exactly the same. So I truly believe that today, the overarching and fundamental goal that we are all collectively and diligently pursuing together as a unified group should unequivocally remain the same, consistent and unwavering. Today, regarding our important topic of the Stairway to the Pure Land, we will discuss further what kind of special causes and conditions do we actually have together right now. I personally and sincerely think that the very important topic we are deeply reflecting on here today has some very special and profound karmic connections with the ancient spiritual practice of Buddhism. It has a rather extraordinary and fascinating, deep historical origin story indeed. To put it quite simply and clearly, today's very important and profound spiritual topic that we're carefully exploring together here is actually a comprehensive lecture, an in-depth discussion, and a thorough study of the Pure Land Dharma Gate. Yes, we can definitely call it that for sure. The Pure Land Dharma, to me, is a profound teaching in which I have placed great faith throughout my entire life. And today happens to be, at the renowned Larung Buddhist Academy, a very special day. One of the many significant Dharma assemblies held throughout the 4 distinct seasons of the year. It is the truly magnificent Grand Pure Land Dharma Assembly, which is one of the 4 major and most significant Dharma gatherings. It should be held in approximately about an hour from now. Today is indeed the very first day. Among all of us present here, gathered together, some may have been to the Academy, while some may not have been. But you should all know about Larung Buddhist Academy. Nowadays, it still plays a certain role in Buddhism and in the cultivation of talent as a whole. It still has a certain undeniable influence. So I think the cause and conditions for our gathering today were actually not deliberately created by all of us together. At first, perhaps the Buddhist organization hosting this event did not intentionally choose this particular time to hold it either. Or perhaps it was simply a mere coincidence, nor did I especially think about it. I didn't plan for our Grand Pure Land Dharma Assembly this year to be held together with the Buddhist community in Los Angeles at the same exact time. I never really thought about it that way before. But yesterday, when I was actually posting on Weibo, I suddenly felt, hey, how come our precious path to the Pure Land and Larung's great annual Dharma Assembly event ended up happening at the same time? It's quite amazing. That's precisely the feeling I personally had. As for the specific details, of course, when it comes to these kinds of causes and conditions, some people might believe in them, while others may not necessarily believe. It's perfectly okay, even if you don't truly believe. Each of us truly has our own unique values and beliefs, and our own unique and individual ways of thinking and perceiving the world around us. This is indeed something that I can completely and wholeheartedly accept, embrace, and understand as a valid and important point of view. Everyone who is present here today, from my personal and deeply considered way of thinking and understanding the situation, many of you are truly Buddhists, but if you don't possess this kind of unwavering faith, I also personally think that's completely reasonable and understandable today. However, having absolutely no religious faith at all is indeed quite uncommon in developed Western countries like the United States. I'm not entirely sure what everyone here thinks about this particular topic, but in many places worldwide, religious faith, I personally think, is very important and truly beneficial. Because if, apart from our ordinary daily worldly life, material money, wealth, possessions, and all our close personal friends, and all kinds of important social relationships and interpersonal connections, if there is no other truly genuine spiritual faith, at a certain point in one's existence, one's life may feel rather empty and unfulfilled. This is something I have personally seen in many real examples in my daily life experience. Therefore, I sincerely hope some people can also deeply reflect on this important matter. It's completely possible for us to have no religious faith at all in this modern world. But at a certain point in your life, I have observed many individuals who possess absolutely no faith whatsoever, especially as people advance in age and grow older. They often find themselves in this particular situation, especially when they encounter real issues of birth, aging, sickness, and death. When facing some substantial problems, they feel completely powerless. It's really hard to even properly describe. So, in such difficult situations, I strongly believe that having genuine faith is very meaningful and comforting for a person, especially in these kinds of challenging circumstances. When we talk about the spiritual path to the Pure Land, everyone here certainly knows quite well the so-called ancient traditional Pure Land teachings. In fact, many dedicated practicing Buddhists present here today have more or less personally encountered these profound Pure Land teachings before. The Pure Land teachings in Tibetan Buddhism, when carefully compared to the Pure Land teachings in Chinese Buddhism, are there any significant differences? I think that within the different lineages and ritualistic practices of the teachings themselves, there are indeed some differences. But in reality, they all lead to the same goal by different paths. They should be harmonized and not contradict each other. There are absolutely no fundamental contradictions between them at all whatsoever. With this important point clearly in mind, we really need to understand what exactly it brings to us today. For example, in Chinese Buddhism, many revered great masters advocate the practice of devoutly reciting the Buddha's name. Within the practice of reciting the Buddha's name, there are also methods such as reciting in accordance with ultimate reality and reciting in accordance with conventional reality, among others. There are 4 methods in total. And Tibetan Buddhism likewise has practices for recollecting the Buddha. In this situation, I think, whether it's traditional Chinese Buddhism or authentic Tibetan Buddhism or many other diverse forms of spiritual practice worldwide, some specific rituals and ceremonies may certainly differ significantly, but we shouldn't think that one particular teaching should be completely abandoned in favor of establishing another. Doing so is actually quite unreasonable and illogical. It's exactly like when we physically leave the United States today, whether we go to distant India or to China. It doesn't really matter at all if the specific commercial plane you take is Air Canada or American Airlines or made in the USA. As long as you successfully leave this country and cross the vast ocean waters and can safely reach the other distant shore, that is our ultimate spiritual goal indeed. Any genuine Dharma method, as long as it is truly authentic, and if you truly rely upon it to effectively leave the cycle of samsara and at the same time reach your intended spiritual destination, then that is precisely what we genuinely need. Therefore, when there are various different Dharma methods and profound instructions, or when a certain teacher holds a different perspective or viewpoint as devoted Buddhists, we should not abandon or outright reject any of them. Such behavior, in actual fact, is truly detrimental and is not very reasonable or practical within the actual practice of Pure Land methods. Therefore, we should first truly understand that we must truly have the correct and proper understanding, the right view, that all the various Dharma methods are indeed integrated and unified as one. When we possess such a truly right view, only then can we truly practice the Dharma methods much better and effectively. Now, speaking of the Pure Land Dharma methods, what kind of specific role do they actually play for us as ordinary people today? In fact, the Pure Land Dharma methods are indeed very important and beneficial. Everyone present here, all of us, will eventually leave this world. When we eventually depart from this earthly existence, we will all pass on. Indeed, all the fleeting worldly fame, the transient profit, and the accumulated material wealth, including even our very own physical bodies to which we are so deeply and intimately attached, will inevitably also be left completely behind in this earthly world as we ultimately depart from it. When we finally leave this mortal coil, can we be completely sure to safely rely on other available alternative methods to truly sustain ourselves spiritually and peacefully, go to our own final ultimate destination successfully? Some people do indeed attain liberation by relying on other Dharma methods. They have this confidence and this opportunity. But for some people, they truly do not have it. In such circumstances, our Pure Land Dharma method is extremely simple, easy to practice, and concise in its teachings. Moreover, it contains profound instructions. Because of this, the great masters of the past, whether from Tibetan Buddhism, Indian Buddhism, or from Han Chinese Buddhism, or from many other diverse ethnic groups and various countries, these eminent and highly respected masters all placed great importance on the profound Pure Land Dharma method. In the past, within our Tibetan Buddhism, you may have also heard of Chögyam Rinpoche, the author of the Aspiration Prayer to Sukhavati. At the beginning of the Aspiration Prayer to Sukhavati, he said that the Pure Land Dharma method is extremely important. This pith instruction is also the most profound among all pith instructions. In all his spiritual practices, he regarded the Pure Land Dharma method as the single most important way of spiritual practice. Originally, he had aspired to be reborn in the Tushita heaven and recited the Maitreya Aspiration Prayer every day. But later on, he realized that if one is reborn in Tushita heaven, In actual fact, one still needs to be like all the other sentient beings in Jambudvipa, just as they are. Birth, aging, sickness, and death. Within samsara, one must continuously go through the cycles of transmigration and life and death. He felt that within samsara, the cycle of birth and death is actually extremely painful. Because of this, he made the earnest and heartfelt aspiration to ultimately be reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss. He continuously recited the aspiration prayer for Sukhavati. The aspiration prayer for Sukhavati he composed is very beautiful. The one we recite every day at the Institute now, the ritual for holding the Pure Land Dharma Assembly, is also this ritual composed by Chome Rinpoche. Many people present here, I don't know if you have had it before, but if not, I also truly hope that in the future, you should always use a ritual or Dharma text that genuinely possesses the extraordinary blessing of Vajra speech as your fundamental basis for consistent practice. This is indeed the most profoundly important and impactful action we can undertake throughout our entire lifetime. In this significant way, we all come to truly know and understand with absolute certainty that when a person genuinely leaves this world, the most crucial thing is to have confidence in one's practice. Yesterday, many Dharma friends gathered here, and we had a truly wonderful time. They took me to the amazing Universal Studios. Specifically over there is indeed a place that is very special, and this particular place holds very interesting meaning to the visitors, and where you can basically experience the sensation of death itself. I honestly think this particular new method is quite good and very effective indeed. What's it actually called exactly then? What is that called? Let me think. I think it is called Mummy. Does anyone know this place? The very specific place where the terrifying zombies come back again and again. It felt like you suddenly dropped down. When you drop, you wonder, am I dead? Could I be? If you went any further down there today, it might really feel like you would actually die completely. There was also a mysterious Vajra alien being. There were all kinds of different forms present everywhere. Actually, this should be just like when you die. Many truly terrifying and formidable Yama kings will rush toward you with an imposing and fearsome presence. These kinds of profound and impactful forms, when each and every one of us eventually dies, we must inevitably face the journey of life and death alone, without any companions or assistance. I have to see whether I truly have confidence in being reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss, or whether I have confidence in relying on my own practice to abide in the nature I have recognized. Actually, in this kind of situation, I truly believe that this is a very positive and beneficial experience. The comprehensive methods we currently utilize for our practice now extensively include this specific kind of training, but at the time of death, we go to train ourselves, to temper ourselves. Up to now, although science has developed a lot, practitioners haven't made progress in this area. In this kind of situation, we all come to realize that we truly don't know exactly how long we will live in this world. When you truly leave this world, you will experience all kinds of fear. When you encounter this kind of fear, actually, for us, being reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss is indeed the most important thing. So first, allow me to tell everyone that being reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss is truly the most profound and ultimate way to transcend the cycle of samsara, and it is the only very simple, supreme, and highly skillful method available. Whether you practice Chinese Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism, there is absolutely no difference in this particular regard. You must certainly go. If you do not diligently study Buddhism and genuinely do not wish to cultivate, perhaps you may not entirely agree with some of these principles. But it's perfectly okay if you do not agree. Just please do not slander it lightly. If you slander it lightly, in fact, that is unreasonable. If you truly have some sound logical reasoning, if you have very solid and concrete factual evidence, indeed, Buddhism has never actually said that you absolutely cannot criticize us directly. We are fully capable of facing this challenge, but I truly believe that for many people, you yourself have never truly studied it. It is actually quite difficult for you to slander or disparage it. If you really want to criticize the Pure Land teachings or any fundamental principle of Buddhism, when you want to deny it, it is always best that you first study it very carefully for a while and then make your well-informed, detailed comments about it properly. That way, what you say will be much more appropriate and truly meaningful. So in this particular regard, we also very much and truly hope that any lingering doubts or even fundamentally wrong views about the profound Pure Land teachings must be eliminated. What kind of wrong views should be eliminated? Nowadays, some people think that, those who study the Pure Land teachings are just some elderly ladies and old men, that their teachings are not needed by young people, intellectual scholars. We don't need to study these teachings. This kind of thinking is actually unreasonable. Even though you are young now, youth fades away very quickly indeed. Impermanence manifests very swiftly in our daily life. Even if you are not truly old yet, while you are still quite relatively young today, it is still very possible to pass away due to various car accidents, suicide, or all kinds of serious chronic illnesses. When you eventually leave this physical world behind, being reborn in the Pure Land is truly the very best possible way to transcend everything completely. So I think some people believe that this is a practice only for the elderly. But in fact, this is quite unreasonable. In Tibet, whether young or old, all dedicated practitioners from a very young age place great importance on diligently reciting the sacred Amitabha Buddha's name. For example, our Buddhist Institute recently held a Dharma assembly. I'm not sure if it's available online, but if it's convenient for you, take a look. There are so many young people, so many participants. Usually, when we hold a Dharma assembly, we recite Amitabha Buddha's heart mantra 300,000 times. Om Amidewa Ayese de Hungshe. This particular mantra is extremely blessed and very powerful indeed. Within 7 or 8 consecutive days, we recite it exactly 300,000 times daily. But those who recite and make sincere, heartfelt aspirations are not like in some Han Chinese temples, where Amitabha Buddha is recited. And perhaps there are more elderly people. Because of this influence, some young people often see, those who study Buddhism are elderly, and those who practice the Pure Land path are even more so elderly. I feel embarrassed to recite Amitabha Buddha myself. After I fully retire, after I truly get old, even if I diligently study Buddhism, even if I sincerely recite the Buddha's name, I feel like I should only recite the Buddha's name when I am truly old. But this kind of thinking is unreasonable. In the Tibetan regions, people devoutly recite the Amitabha Buddha's name from a very young age. From childhood, everyone diligently recites and practices the Buddha's name. We absolutely shouldn't think that this is a practice exclusively for the elderly. There is also another significant situation. Some of us, for various reasons, have previously studied the Diamond Sutra or the Shurangama Sutra, or even studied some other teachings, especially those related to emptiness, as everyone knows. Within the Buddhist teachings on emptiness, it is explained that all phenomena are empty. At this point, using the reasoning that all phenomena are empty, some people feel that being reborn in the Pure Land is pointless. Since all phenomena are empty, some people unfortunately use the language of emptiness as an excuse to stop practicing. This approach is also extremely unreasonable and quite illogical. Although in the ultimate sense of reality, all phenomena, indeed all of the bases, the paths and the results, or all things and events, all inner and outer phenomena, there is not a single one that is not empty. They are all empty, but this is not a simple emptiness. It is free from the 4 extremes and the 8 elaborations. However, before realizing this state, all things and events still exist in a very real way, like a dream or an illusion. Therefore, before we have truly reached the higher state, it is best not to slander the conventional truths, such as good deeds bring good results, bad deeds bring bad results, in our worldly experience. This even applies to every detail of our daily lives, every little thing, every specific detail, all of your actions and including things in our daily life like eating, walking, speaking, and so on. These are indeed things that we cannot deny. If you deny these allegations and say that everything is empty, you wouldn't need to sleep at night, eat during the day, go to work, drive, or even deal with frustrating traffic jams. If you truly use the concept of emptiness to deny everything, I'm afraid you haven't actually reached that level yet. Even though everything is empty, as long as our current life truly exists and continues to manifest, it clearly shows and demonstrates that the Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss also genuinely exists. So in our spiritual practice and cultivation, there are indeed some views and perspectives that are not very reasonable or well-founded. Some people even think, since we are diligently studying the profound Pure Land teachings, including things in our worldly life, as well as other schools like Chan, Vajrayana, and various other traditions, they have absolutely nothing to do with our Pure Land practice. We truly don't need to study these teachings, nor do we necessarily need to fully understand them. In fact, this kind of thinking is also quite unreasonable. First of all, I should make it abundantly clear to absolutely everyone that in the process of practicing the Pure Land method, there are some significant issues that currently exist. Some individuals, because they have never extensively studied widely or learned a great deal, seem to think that as long as they recite Amitabha Buddha, that's enough, and that nothing else is useful, nothing else needs to be practiced. Some even have a strong sense of rejection toward other Dharma methods and look down on them. They think, as long as I recite the Buddha's name, that's enough. Apart from reciting the Buddha, they treat almost everything else as if it isn't the true Dharma. This kind of thinking is unreasonable. Everyone present should know that when it comes to being reborn in the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss, the most important thing is that there are two major obstacles. If you have these two major obstacles, no matter who you are or what Buddha name you recite, you cannot be reborn there. The two obstacles are, one is abandoning the Dharma, and the other is committing the 5 heinous crimes. Everyone here must pay close attention to this. Otherwise, you might spend your whole life aspiring to be reborn in the Pure Land. But unknowingly, because of your own profound ignorance and arrogance, or due to your deep-seated afflictions and various other significant reasons, you may have inadvertently created the two major obstacles to being reborn in the Pure Land. In that case, after you die, will you be able to be reborn there? Absolutely not. You will not be reborn there. Among them, the offense of abandoning the Dharma that I just mentioned. What kind of offense is abandoning the Dharma? It actually means that in the entire process of sincerely aspiring to be successfully reborn in the Pure Land, we should never really look down on other important Buddhist teachings whatsoever. Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings include both exoteric and esoteric schools. Within the exoteric, there are also Shravakayana and Mahayana. In the Maitreya Bodhisattva's Questions Sutra and other related scriptures, it is stated very clearly that some people, out of sheer arrogance, truly think that this Dharma is superior and that Dharma is not, which also falls under the offense of abandoning the Dharma. This is a very strict standard. If we, as practitioners of the Pure Land school, and selected teachings are invalid or should not be performed, or that certain teachings are unnecessary for us, such statements are actually very dangerous. Therefore, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok would often demonstrate, encouraging us to repent more. Otherwise, he himself, when he was young, also enjoyed debating frequently. And in the process of debating, without realizing it, it was very likely that he disparaged some teachings of other schools. So, in his very final later years, he clearly appeared to be very deeply fearful indeed. I truly believe that he truly was a remarkably great, accomplished spiritual master overall, and may not have actually experienced such a situation. But in reality, this was a great inspiration to me personally. I have also thought that whether or not I have the opportunity to spread the Dharma in the future during this process, I must never intentionally disparage other schools, other teachers, or other teachings, and must not engage in deliberate slander. Even unintentionally, it is possible to create negative karma. This is something we really need to pay close attention to. So in this situation, many of the Buddhists present here, I used to often see some people who practiced the Pure Land Buddhist teachings. They were especially prone to rejecting other Buddhist teachings, and even within their own group, they didn't maintain true unity. It seems that we practitioners, in our practice, our minds are becoming narrower and narrower, extremely so, even much more so than ordinary worldly people. We often get very easily upset over the slightest little thing imaginable. Except for their own particular sect and their own beloved spiritual teacher, they don't acknowledge anyone else. It's as if in front of them, not even a basic worldly group can truly compare to this remarkable entity. This kind of attitude is indeed very dangerous. The offense of abandoning the Dharma is easy to commit. When we look at Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings, if we say this or that teaching is unreasonable and reject or slander them, this is abandoning Dharma. On a smaller scale, apart from the practices we ourselves follow, other exoteric or esoteric teachings, and the teachings of other schools and traditions, it is best that we do not slander or abandon them. If you abandon them, that is truly the grave offense of slandering the Dharma. If you do that, you will have absolutely no hope whatsoever of ever being reborn in the Pure Land. The second obstacle to being reborn in the land of ultimate bliss is committing the 5 heinous crimes which everyone knows about. Killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arhat, killing a spiritual teacher, or causing a Buddha to bleed. Looking at the 5 heinous crimes as a whole, most of us nowadays are unlikely to commit them now, except for a very few who have killed their father or mother, or killed their teacher. Such cases do exist, but there are other offenses that are somewhat similar to these, and they can easily occur. As someone who aspires to rebirth, you should also pay attention to this. If you are always disrespectful and unfilial to your parents, constantly arguing with your father and showing no respect, and always quarreling with your mother as well, or frequently slandering your teacher, or being disrespectful to holy beings and causing them any harm. And although in our modern times we may not be able to literally cause the Buddha to bleed physically, if one were to show profound disrespect, engage in malicious slander, or intentionally defile the sacred and revered images of the Buddha, such actions, in fact, also become obstacles in our spiritual practice and are close to the 5 heinous crimes. Some other treatises also mention this, showing disrespect to the supports of the 3 jewels and so on. All of these are considered close to the 5 heinous crimes. Therefore, in the process of our practice, those who practice the path to rebirth should also be extremely mindful of this. I sincerely and profoundly hope that everyone will diligently seek broad knowledge and continuous learning. As devoted Buddhists, no matter what challenging situation or circumstance we find ourselves in, we should always strive to learn and grow as true Buddhists. This is because Buddhism itself is a remarkably systematic, comprehensive, and logical framework. This form of profound wisdom education. If we Buddhists ourselves have not genuinely received and deeply understood this essential teaching, and yet still claim to be true Buddhists while actively promoting it to others, it seems as if we have unfortunately become nothing more than empty vessels. Not genuine Buddhists, but rather somewhat superstitious. Whenever we mention Buddhism, it's always about fortune-telling and divination every day. In our conversations with others, we can see clearly that whether a Buddhist has real understanding or not. If it is a knowledgeable Buddhist community, they often discuss the principles of Buddhist doctrine, and at the same time, they also talk about the true principles of practice. But in Buddhist communities that lack real understanding, these people are very typical examples. And often during conversations, what do they talk about? All day long, they constantly talk about mysterious and truly strange things, whether they are vivid dreams or inexplicable supernatural powers and various other kinds of unusual phenomena like that. They do not discuss systematic and proper Buddhist teachings in a comprehensive manner. This is a significant problem that we are currently facing and must address. Therefore, when diligently studying the profound Pure Land teachings, it truly is an extremely extraordinary form of Dharma. However, during the process of practicing this Dharma, our Buddhist communities, generally speaking, truly need to pay very close and careful attention to this important matter. As for the situation in the United States, I'm not particularly familiar with it, especially in Los Angeles, where I've heard there are many Buddhist groups, and many people studying Buddhism, as well as many practicing the Pure Land teachings. But due to time constraints on this trip, I really want to understand your situation. Are you a Buddhist community with a truly solid foundation, strong faith, and profound wisdom? Such a community, or are you more like the typical examples I mentioned earlier? Usually you don't really pay much attention to the profound Buddhist teachings, but occasionally join in the excitement and attend a Dharma assembly, very superficially burning some incense and bowing to the Buddha, talking about other people's faults, and sometimes saying, "Oh, the Buddha has truly blessed me with good fortune." Nowadays, many people who are just starting to learn spend all day talking about their own spiritual experiences, saying things like, "Today I dreamed that the Buddha blessed me," or "Today I attained something special." These kinds of so-called extraordinary experiences. They talk about things that seem unbelievable to others. But as you spend more and more time studying Buddhism, at a certain point, you realize that so-called attainment is not that easy to achieve. But at the same time, it's also not that easy to lose your progress. At this stage, you become more settled and steady. No matter what, your own practice will progress step by step, and you'll have a solid theoretical foundation, as well as practical and insightful guidance for your spiritual cultivation. In this particular kind of situation, practicing Buddhism is relatively safe, secure, and truly reliable. Otherwise, the harsh reality is that in mainland China today, many new Buddhist practitioners are quite deeply confused at the very beginning stage indeed. There are indeed some very questionable religious groups in the entire country that are not very legitimate at all, where people neither study nor practice properly whatsoever. Every day, there are these so-called wandering lay practitioners who just go from place to place, attending Dharma assemblies without really studying seriously. Every single day they carry a yellow bag around and run around everywhere busily inside various temples. These are commonly called wandering lay practitioners and wandering monks. There are both types indeed. Maybe I myself am actually a wandering monk too. Overall, this is what I have always profoundly believed and consistently maintained. Now, among the many diverse religions that exist, some specific religions indeed possess their own well-defined doctrines, which are often supported by extensive research, diligent study, and their own unique forms of practical cultivation. Some religions only uphold their own specific truths and personal beliefs, but do not have particularly profound theoretical systems whatsoever. But as dedicated practicing Buddhists, for many long years now, when it comes to studying the sacred Dharma deeply, I have always had great confidence. If we Buddhists truly research and genuinely study the teachings, there are absolutely no problems with the doctrine. And it's not just us Buddhists, but even some of the world's most prominent and respected scientists, if they truly study it. In fact, many of the profound confusions they face in life can be resolved through the wisdom of the Dharma. This is not about praising ourselves and belittling others, but rather about fostering mutual respect, but something that is truly genuine. We will discover this fascinating information in the ongoing process of our extensive research. Many of the profound and ancient mysteries of humanity today, when thoroughly explored and carefully investigated through profound Buddhist theory, will be clearly revealed. This is indeed a very reasonable and logical fact. So I personally feel that for all of us gathered here today, on one hand, a human life is extremely rare and truly precious, and to have such an opportunity in this very life is also not easy at all whatsoever. During this entire complex process, we must carefully study and thoroughly explore everything, because this is something extremely important indeed. At such a critical time, as I clearly mentioned earlier, we should first carefully and thoroughly remove all the obstacles to practicing the Pure Land teachings. This includes our rejection of other schools and some significant karmic obstacles within ourselves, which we truly need to confess and sincerely repent. According to some of the established rules in our institute, we perform confession every year. This is also the case in Chinese Buddhism now, where people rely on the 88 Buddhas and various methods of confession to purify themselves. This is also extremely important. According to some Tibetan Buddhist teachings, we recite the 100-syllable mantra, the Vajrasattva mantra, and so on, using even more methods of confession to purify the negative karma we have accumulated in the past. And then we can proceed with our practice. As for the practice itself, due to the current time constraints today, if we were to discuss a little bit more about the profound doctrinal teachings on rebirth in the Pure Land, I'm also interested in this area. It's not because I'm giving a lecture today that I've suddenly developed a brand new interest. It's not like that at all. For many, many years already, including in the important area of rebirth in the Pure Land, the 3 Pure Land Sutras, the 5 Pure Land Sutras, I have spoken about these many times. At the same time, for certain specific Pure Land scriptures, such as the profound Contemplation Sutra, I have personally translated them from Chinese into Tibetan language myself. I have put some considerable effort into this specific area myself and have gained quite a bit of valuable practical experience as well. But ultimately, for everyone present here today, if you wish to be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss in the future, regardless of whether you follow Tibetan Buddhism or Chinese Buddhism, or according to the teachings of other great masters, we must possess the 4 essential causes for rebirth in the Pure Land. Perhaps some other esteemed teachers have explained this to you, or perhaps they have not. There is actually no significant difference in this particular regard. Therefore, today we will briefly explain this important topic to everyone. As for being reborn in the land of ultimate bliss, can everyone achieve rebirth there? In fact, it is possible to be reborn there. It depends on your faith, whether you have faith and aspiration in this regard. If you wish to be reborn, it should be possible. Regarding rebirth in the Pure Land, it is not the case that only those with money can be reborn there, and those without money cannot be reborn. Nor is it that only those with status can be reborn, and those without status cannot be reborn. If you want to come to America, it might have something to do with money. Otherwise, you couldn't afford a plane ticket. So in that case, money does play a role. But for rebirth in the Pure Land, as long as you have faith, faith is actually the most fundamental requirement. So for us humans, there is no distinction. Young people can be reborn, and elderly people can also be reborn. The wealthy can be reborn, and so can the poor. Those with wisdom can be reborn, and so can those without wisdom. What is the reason for this? It is because we rely on our own faith and Amitabha Buddha's power of vows. When the causes and conditions are complete, we can all be reborn. Therefore, first and foremost, regarding the Pure Land practice, we should develop a sense of trust in it. Of course, during this process, some of you may wonder if it could really be that simple, or whether it's truly like this. If you really think this way, engage in what we call extensive study, reflection, and practice. This is what we refer to as listening, contemplating, and practicing the teachings. Because if simply reciting the Buddha's name, or just simply chanting a mantra, truly cannot cut off our discriminating thoughts. In fact, our tendency to discriminate is very strong. Some of you may have, before learning Buddhism, and even after taking up the practice, still harbored many deluded thoughts, discriminations, doubts, and suspicions. You may think this or that is unreasonable. Moreover, with our physical eyes, we can't really see anything. Our physical ears also can't really hear anything. And our discriminating mind actually can't really conceive of much either. If we truly observe with wisdom, we'll clearly see that a person's six senses are extremely limited, indeed, in their scope. We shouldn't think that just because I don't believe in something, it doesn't exist. That's a very narrow-minded way of thinking. A farmer, for example, may not believe in scientific advancements or in all the high-tech developments in America, because a farmer who has never studied science definitely won't believe in them. He won't believe that such large buildings exist. Especially in the remote places where I've personally been, many people spend their entire lives in tiny makeshift tents. Some individuals have never even been to a county town. I once met an elderly herdsman who said, "I've never, ever seen a building taller than 2 stories. At that particular time, he was living deep in the mountains. Perhaps now he's seen them." When I first met him, it was approximately 10 years ago. He said, "I've never seen a 2-story building in my whole life." He could hardly believe it. I told him there are indeed buildings with many fascinating stories. He said, "I simply don't believe it at all. No matter how much you try to explain, there's absolutely nothing you can do. I just don't believe it." So sometimes our own personal wisdom, our very own eyes and our individual perceptions are indeed quite limited in their scope and understanding of the world. Nowadays, some people say, "I don't believe it." Actually, it's fine for you personally not to believe. But in reality, not believing isn't necessarily a true sign of profound wisdom. There are, in fact, 2 distinct kinds of disbelief. One particular kind of disbelief is, after you have done many years of research, you ultimately conclude that this is superstition, that it's unreasonable, and you don't believe it. Then you have the right to speak. You can say you don't believe. But there's another kind, where someone just hasn't done any research in this area and simply doesn't believe. This kind of stubborn disbelief has no reliable or solid basis at all whatsoever. So, as dedicated Buddhists, if we have serious doubts now, we must be very well read and truly knowledgeable, constantly broadening our mental horizons. At that particular point in time, many of our lingering doubts and uncertainties will naturally be resolved. This is extremely important. So, what I truly want to introduce to everyone here today, first, is the contemplation of the field of merit among the causes for rebirth in the Pure Land. The meaning of contemplating the field of merit is that we should constantly and diligently visualize the land of ultimate bliss and the glorious Amitabha Buddha from here, far to the west, beyond countless worlds and realms. There is a very pure and magnificent Buddha land, just as described in the Amitabha Sutra and the Contemplation Sutra. Here resides Amitabha Buddha, who possesses the perfect marks and complete realization of merit. Amitabha Buddha has 1 face and 2 arms, and his body is red in color. Surrounding him are mainly Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva and Mahastama Prapta Bodhisattva, along with thousands upon thousands of pure attendants. Day and night, they watch over us, bless us, and show us compassion. If any of us aspires to be reborn there, we will definitely be able to reach such a world. This kind of clear contemplation of the field of merit In fact, whether we are walking, standing, sitting, or lying down should be visualized at all times. It's not that just because I might die tomorrow, I start reciting Amitabha Buddha today. Not like that. Actually, spiritual practice should be integrated into our daily lives. But what are people in the world like nowadays? When they're at work, they're just working, and at home, they're just doing things as if it has nothing to do with spiritual practice. In a whole week, they might practice for an hour or two. From what I see, your biggest problem is you can't integrate daily life into your practice, nor practice into daily life. This is truly the greatest difficulty. Like many Tibetan people, they may not possess the same remarkably sharp intellectual intelligence as you do, but whether they are diligently engaged in the arduous task of herding their cattle or simply partaking in their daily meals, they very often hold their sacred prayer beads and frequently engage in profound and contemplative meditation practices. In their mindset and attitude, no matter where they go, whether they're riding in a car or walking, they have the habit of meditating and reciting the Buddha's name regularly. In this way, your life becomes your practice and your practice becomes your life. It's easy. You don't necessarily have to set aside special time every day. I see that many of you, when you are driving, you should never really have to think about it at all. Driving is just driving. Going to work is just going to work. Only after you've finished handling everything else do you think, now I'll do a bit of practice. Then you pretend to sit there properly for a little while. But that time is very short. This isn't what a true practitioner does. So if we truly and genuinely want to practice mindfulness in our daily lives, we can certainly do it at virtually any given time. When walking, you visualize. You can easily visualize the Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. When eating, you can also just visualize the food. All the offerings I eat are offered to all those in the land of ultimate bliss, to Amitabha Buddha as the main one, and to all Buddhas of the 10 directions and 3 times. When I go to sleep, it's the same. Amitabha Buddha radiates light in the room. Sometimes we might think that's impossible. The Pure Land is far away. If I visualize it here, will it really work? This is just the thinking of our discriminating mind. Mipham Rinpoche also said that, in fact, the pure and wise Buddha is like the moon, even though it is high up in the sky. When there is a pure vessel of water, the reflection of the moon naturally appears in it. In the same way, whenever we visualize, the Buddha is everywhere. So in front of anyone who has faith, the Buddha is right there. If you don't have faith, then no matter how much you pray, it won't be of any real use. So whether it's at night or during the day, as long as we just visualize at any time, this is called clearly visualizing the field of merit, the first cause. For rebirth in the Pure Land, this is something you must never forget. Otherwise, when the time comes, you might just recite a few Buddha names. Nowadays, some people, when close to dying, they recite a few Buddha names, and others help by reciting a few Buddha names for them, and that's it. But whether this can actually lead to a successful rebirth, I still cannot fully guarantee. That's the first and most important point. I sincerely hope that in your daily life, you can develop the consistent habit of frequently visualizing Amitabha Buddha. That's the first point. The second is accumulating merit and purifying obstacles. Accumulate merit and eliminate obstacles. Generally speaking, there is the method of the 7-branch offering for accumulating merit and purifying obstacles. Offering, prostration, rejoicing, and also confession, requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of Dharma, asking the Buddha and the Guru not to enter nirvana, and finally, the dedication of all merit. This is what we usually refer to as the 7-branch offering. Frequently take refuge and make prostrations. Often rejoice in others' virtues and confess your own faults. To all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, the virtuous teachers, request them to turn the wheel of Dharma, dedicate the roots of virtue in this way. Some of these are included in the 7-branch offering. This is accumulating merit and purifying obstacles. If we summarize this further, you should just try your very best to accumulate both significant merit and profound wisdom. Just as I mentioned earlier, as ordinary beings, we definitely have many negative karmas. We need to purify these negative actions and practice virtuous deeds. Nowadays, some Buddhists often talk about emptiness and use Grand Dharma phrases, but they do not actually engage in proper practice. There are even some worldly people who are not practitioners, but still discuss these profound concepts, who also believe in cause and effect and do good deeds, which is very good. But we Buddhists often just talk big and do not always follow through. What I dislike the most is talking big. Some people say everything is emptiness in one sentence and that there's no need to do anything. Of course, I also really like practicing emptiness. Practicing the Dharma of emptiness certainly has merit. But if you deny all the accumulation of merit, that's unreasonable. We should start from the smallest things And even among worldly people, there are indeed some people who accumulate great merit from even the tiniest and most humble acts of kindness. There are many touching stories like this. The other day I saw one. This happened in your country, the United States. Some people specifically observe the actions of others. They deliberately put $50 on the street to see precisely who would pick it up and what they would do with it. Eventually, an elderly lady in her 60s found it, and she didn't have any personal property to her name at all. She picked it up, and after picking it up, she just took it to the bank, She didn't keep it for herself at all. Later, when a local reporter interviewed her personally, what did she actually say? She herself was actually extremely poor indeed. She only had exactly $10 left in her entire bank account, and she had exactly $7 on her person. For her, $50 was an incredibly huge and significant amount of money, but despite the circumstances, she ultimately chose not to use it. When the reporter finally asked her about it, she said, "As human beings, we should do more good deeds." She said, "When I was little, my mother told me, you must never steal. Actually, if you find something on the street," I wondered, I don't know in America, does picking something up off the street count as stealing? It's a bit different over there. But no matter what, later they were very much moved. She only accepted the $50 when they just gave it to her. Actually, in this world, I'm not sure if she has any religious faith. But as Buddhists, do we have even the smallest acts of accumulating merit and purifying obstacles? Especially for those of us who diligently practice the Pure Land path and sincerely aspire to be reborn in the Pure Land, we must accumulate merit through our actions. If you think, as long as I recite Amitabha Buddha's name once, everything is accomplished, and you're unwilling to even make the smallest offering or accumulate even a little merit, and you're unwilling. I've seen some elderly lay Buddhists in China. They are very devout and often go to the temple, but they are also extremely stingy and very attached. They are especially attached to money, to their own children, and to their families, extremely attached and very selfish. Can such people attain rebirth in the Pure Land? It's hard to say. In fact, true Buddhist practice truly requires the heart to become more and more open, more and more inclusive and accepting and expansive. This is very important. In this situation, we need to accumulate merit and purify our obstacles. From now on, if you truly wish to be reborn in the Pure Land, you should rely on the 7-limb practice in all aspects of your cultivation. This is the second point. The third cause is to give rise to bodhicitta. Everyone present here should know this. When practicing the Pure Land method for rebirth, you must consider this crucial point. If I alone am reborn in the Pure Land, it may not have much significance. I seek accomplishment for the sake of all sentient beings throughout the world, limitless in number, and to achieve enlightenment for them. In order to reach this goal, I rely on the great vows of Amitabha Buddha and on my own deep faith. With these causes and conditions, may I be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss. The sole purpose of our aspiration should be to make aspirations based on this kind of motivation. So now there are some individuals among us who often say this, as long as I am reborn, that's enough. No need to worry about other sentient beings. This thinking does exist among some in Chinese Buddhism and also in Tibetan Buddhism, but this is unreasonable. To be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss, one must make great vows. You must aspire to be reborn for the sake of all sentient beings. You cannot think of being reborn just for your own personal goal. If you do so, you will certainly not be able to attain rebirth. This is also clearly mentioned in Master Tan Luan's commentary on the Treatise on Rebirth. It says that some people do not give rise to bodhicitta. If you do not give rise to bodhicitta, even if you wish to be reborn, you cannot achieve rebirth. This is the ultimate teaching of Chinese Buddhism. I have read Master Tan Luan's commentary on the Treatise on Rebirth before. It is very well written and extremely famous in China. Actually, there are many teachings on bodhicitta in Chinese Buddhism. Some time ago, I read a text specifically called the Sutra on the Generation of Bodhicitta. It was translated during the Sui dynasty, a significant historical period. In this scripture, it is mentioned that we must eliminate in this world, for example, arrogance and ignorance, and all sorts of negative mental states. We should all aspire to definitely give rise to bodhicitta. When you have time, you should be able to find it online as well. Take a look at these teachings on generating bodhicitta, including the way of bodhisattva, bodhicāryavatara. I hope everyone will study them a bit. Otherwise, as Buddhists, we can become selfish, never thinking about sentient beings, only about ourselves, Every time we hold a Dharma assembly, many people are burning incense and bowing to the Buddha, reciting Amitabha Buddha's name. I visited many temples, Chinese and Tibetan Buddhist, but some temples are reciting Amitabha Buddha's name, reciting the Amitabha Sutra, and the chanting sounds very pleasant. The cantor's voice is nice, and so are the voices of those below. But this is just singing without the right motivation. It's just that the voices sound good, that's all. In reality, is there any merit in this? There is merit. Just like when a singer chants Amitabha Buddha's name, it's like singing a song. Every single one of our elderly practitioners has indeed become a singer, all singing Amitabha Buddha. But if you truly and sincerely want it to be the cause for rebirth in the Pure Land, then you must give rise to Bodhicitta. For those of us who study Buddhism, how do we give rise to Bodhicitta? We make the aspiration for Bodhicitta, we practice Bodhicitta. There is ultimate Bodhicitta and conventional Bodhicitta. I won't discuss that here. This is about giving rise to Bodhicitta. It's very important. Therefore, I sincerely hope that many people will truly encounter the profound Mahayana Dharma in this very lifetime, in this present existence. I think this is extremely rare and difficult. Therefore, we should use Bodhicitta to embrace all virtuous actions. If you do not use Bodhicitta to embrace virtuous actions, ultimately, they still become causes for human or heavenly rebirth, or just worldly dharmas. So what are worldly dharmas? Worldly dharmas refer to, as some people do, constantly praying for safety, health, freedom from illness, and happiness. Taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, or reciting the Buddha's name, these actions are worldly dharmas, and what you gain are human and heavenly results. For example, thinking, in the future I will become a happy person, or in the future I will become a heavenly being and ascend to heaven, or I will be reborn in the heavenly realms. Such thoughts are of the human and heavenly vehicles. One has never thought in their own mind stream, renouncing samsara. They have never considered for the benefit of all sentient beings. With this mindset, one cannot uphold the Hinayana or Mahayana teachings. So nowadays, many Buddhists around the world consider themselves to be Mahayana Buddhists. But if we were to actually test this very carefully with some kind of precise scientific instrument today, we might not meet the required standard at all whatsoever. Because what is it that our hearts are seeking? We are seeking human and heavenly blessings. Some people don't even seek those human and heavenly blessings, but muddle-headedly worship the Buddha and take refuge, and muddle-headedly believe, including among us monastics. And there are also quite a number of monks and nuns who have simply shaved their heads and changed their clothes. But this alone doesn't necessarily mean anything. If your mindset isn't properly adjusted, even some police officers sometimes shave their heads. It doesn't really mean anything special or significant. Just shaving your head doesn't necessarily make you a monastic. So what is most crucial for us right now? We need to have a genuine renunciation that truly transcends samsara. Attaining rebirth in the pure land of ultimate bliss is also definitely necessary. So I think truly sometimes when it comes to thoroughly testing Mahayana and Hinayana practices, when we are testing monastics or lay practitioners, we should consider several aspects. It's really quite hard to say whether our current mindset truly meets the standard. Why do we usually take refuge? Why do we practice? For many, their motivation isn't for liberation, but simply for peace and safety, you know? I don't know about here in America. I don't know your situation, but from my experience with many Buddhists, most are on the level of the human and heavenly vehicle. To be honest, that doesn't sound nice, and many may not be happy to hear it. You say I'm at the human and heavenly vehicle level, not reaching the hero vehicle, the bodhisattva vehicle. If that's the case, I don't want to listen at all. But in reality, what kind of person is a Buddhist of the Shravaka vehicle? What kind of requirements does a Buddhist of the bodhisattva vehicle need to meet? If you don't have these requirements, we can call ourselves that in name, but in reality, we might not actually meet the standard. That's why it's so important for us to give rise to bodhicitta. I hope that many Buddhists around the world today, in my opinion, shouldn't be Buddhists in name only. We should be genuine and sincere. Within our hearts, we should always have a deep sense of the precepts, concentration, and wisdom passed down by Shakyamuni Buddha. If we lack precepts, concentration, and wisdom, then we are rather empty Buddhists, just Buddhists in outward appearance. There's really nothing admirable about that label. We can also reflect on this ourselves. The precepts, concentration, and wisdom of Shakyamuni Buddha, these three aspects, although vast as the ocean and incredibly profound and extensive, at the very least for ourselves, for our own well-being, we should understand some of the teachings of Mahayana Buddhism. Some time ago in Canada, I said, as Buddhists, we should have studied at least 50 sutras. If we haven't finished studying them, then we still don't really count as even moderately good Buddhists in the truest sense of the word. We've learned far too little. If we only recite 1 or 2 sutras, or just read 1 or 2 treatises and think that's enough, then that's really not sufficient. We still need to significantly improve our knowledge. That is precisely how I see it. This is the third cause for being reborn in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss. The fourth cause is to make aspirations and dedicate merit. That is to say, for every bit of good we do, we should think of being reborn in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss. If we don't do this well, if we don't contemplate, think, and make aspirations, then being reborn in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss will be difficult. It's like if you want to go to another country, but you are not willing to go and you don't make effort, then you might not have the opportunity. So in our daily lives, we should think about leaving this Saha world, because in the Saha world there are afflictions, greed, anger, and ignorance, suffering. We want to go to a pure and clean place, relying on pure meditative concentration and wisdom. There are countless sentient beings in the world, and we can use all kinds of methods to help liberate them, which is very convenient. Therefore, we should aspire to be reborn in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss. In Chinese Buddhism, Master Wu, as you all know, also said, if you do not have faith and aspiration, it is very difficult to be reborn there. Whether you can be reborn or not mainly depends on whether you have faith and aspiration. This is exactly the same as the teachings in Tibetan Buddhism. If you do not have the intention to go to the Pure Land of ultimate bliss, then being reborn in the Pure Land is extremely, extremely difficult. Therefore, many of us must make sincere aspirations ourselves personally today. Whatever kind of specific aspiration you make very carefully, you will definitely achieve a corresponding positive result eventually. In fact, if we frequently make aspirations, even if someone is a very ordinary person, when they pass away, they can do so very, very quite peacefully. I once visited a Tibetan family's home, and they were not very well educated. The elderly person who was there was about to pass away. Before he died, he solemnly said, "Since this very morning, I have truly felt, and I must tell you, as if Amitabha Buddha's boundless and compassionate blessings have already come to me. I am going to the Pure Land of ultimate bliss." He was very peaceful indeed. After hearing the old man's words, everyone in the entire family waited quite happily together as well indeed. It was certainly not like those of us who have absolutely no faith whatsoever, where, when someone actually dies suddenly, everyone is crying, wailing, and heartbroken. It wasn't like that. I just felt, what a wonderful atmosphere in this family. You see, even the person who was dying felt that when the sunlight came in early this morning with the power of the Buddha, he had also received Amitabha Buddha's assurance. And indeed, by the afternoon, he had already truly peaceful and passed away. The family was also very at ease, feeling that he had been reborn in the Pure Land. Moreover, there were indeed many wonderful auspicious signs of rebirth that clearly appeared everywhere. Actually, in traditional Buddhism specifically, there are many truly incredible signs and omens of rebirth. Many of us are definitely fully capable of achieving this important goal. Some people think that you dedicated Buddhists are very concerned about the profound concept of death. Actually, I personally believe that death is an extremely important fundamental aspect of human life. If we can calmly and peacefully face death, then when it comes to many other significant things in this complex world, there's truly nothing we can't face very calmly. Because for many people, it is something truly frightening. Some people even refuse to mention the word at all, or even acknowledge it. I've asked some people before, what will you do when you die? Others get really upset. They say, that's inauspicious, don't talk about that. But in fact, this is something we have to face. Whether it's auspicious or not doesn't matter. We truly have to face it. Every person, without exception, has to face it. And when the appropriate time eventually comes, we have a method to truly leave this world gracefully and peacefully. It's not a big deal if it's just for a short time, whether you are peaceful or not. But the key is that in our future lives, life after life, we won't suffer in the cycle of samsara, from all kinds of cycles of birth and death and their associated sufferings. Indeed, no matter which realm of samsara it is, they are all truly filled with suffering. This time, I visited several various places and locations. I went to some places in China, and then to Australia, to Canada, and to the United States. But I saw that every ordinary being, just like us, even though some may appear more successful on the surface, in reality, they have a lot of suffering inside. It can arise at any moment. Attaining liberation is truly the best. If we don't achieve liberation, no matter how good looking you are, how wealthy you are, or how successful you may be, there will always be some kind of hope, worry, suffering, and affliction. People are constantly struggling and striving to overcome their challenges. Maybe my mindset, I don't know if it's the same as everyone else's. I truly feel that at the very moment of death, everyone is very peaceful and calm. But the most crucial thing is, while we are alive, we still need to put in our own effort. It's truly very difficult for us to be like some dedicated practitioners. We genuinely cannot achieve what they are able to do. I really do admire them as well. Last year, a revered Lama from our institute sadly passed away. It seems that on that day I saw, it was also mentioned on Tenzin Rinpoche's website, I had previously interviewed some of the Khenpos around him. What they said was indeed all the same. There was a Lama named Danju. He was 85 years old. What was it truly like when he passed away? He possessed absolutely nothing of material value at all. Even his humble dwelling, when it was eventually sold, only managed to fetch a meager sum of less than 10,000 yuan. Every single one of his personal belongings, every item he owned, was of negligible worth, including his house and everything in it. But he was very happy while he was alive. He passed away at the age of 85. At that time, he told the people around him, "I will definitely die this year." Especially, he said, "If I die, I will leave before the memorial ceremony for His Holiness." Here we have a Khenpo from the lay Buddhist center named Khenpo Tuoni. Originally, one day, Khenpo Tuoni was planning to return to his beloved hometown. He was then told, "You'd better not go today, perhaps another time. Otherwise, I will leave before tomorrow." So he decided not to go. What he said wasn't necessarily certain, but he thought because he had received great kindness from him back when he first came to the Institute. So he remained and did not depart. And indeed, on that very same day, he peacefully passed away completely. All the signs of attaining rebirth in the Pure Land were perfectly present. However, throughout his entire lifetime, he was truly and remarkably diligent. How many times did he recite it? 600 million Avalokiteshvara mantras. 600 million, that's a huge number. For many of us, let alone 100 million, even 10 million recitations is something can't achieve in a lifetime. But he recited 600 million Avalokiteshvara mantras. He lived to 85. Who knows how many he recited year? He also recited 1 million times of the Samantabhadra's aspiration to noble deeds, and about 100,000 recitations of the confession text of the 35 Buddhas. At that time, I was very formal about it, because he was especially diligent every day. There was a tantra we made aspirations for in front of His Holiness. It was a Dzogchen tantra, and I made aspirations. But now, every time I go out, I recite it. If time is tight, I can't manage it. He recited it 7 times every day. He was extremely diligent. He would get up very early in the morning. In the end, when we witnessed this kind of situation, everyone felt on one hand a deep sense of admiration. These practitioners who truly put in the effort while alive, when it comes time to die, they can leave whenever they wish. They are very at ease and also very peaceful. There is no suffering at all. It's not like some people who receive a critical condition notice in the hospital, or when they themselves are afraid of dying. They become extremely anxious, fearful, and terrified. It's not like that. The family members are extremely anxious, running around everywhere, worried about whether he will die and what to do if he does. When someone really passes away, everyone cries and makes a scene. Actually, the whole human world is very strange. Some time ago, I saw that Einstein once said when his dear friend Michel Besso passed away, he thoughtfully said, "In this truly strange and often perplexing world of ours, where we exist and experience life's journey, he just left a little earlier, that's all." For us, we have long understood the distinction between future, past, and present. These are all just illusions. Actually, it seems as if he had reached a certain level of spiritual cultivation. But I don't really believe that Einstein truly attained a state of realization. His science was indeed impressive, and his mind was truly remarkable. I've also heard that in Princeton or somewhere like that. I'm planning to go there after a while, I think. But maybe when we're there, we won't be able to see it. Still, I really admire the wisdom of these people. Some of the things he said have a spiritual quality, almost like a practitioner would say. Even among practitioners, it would be those at a relatively high level. It's not like us ordinary people who, when we encounter something, feel especially pained, troubled, or heartbroken. It's not like that. So I really hope that many of us practitioners, when it comes time to eventually leave this world, one can truly pass away peacefully. This is an extremely important consideration for everyone, especially for each one of us. when we ultimately have to face death at the end of our lives. Some people, according to Chinese Buddhism, attain rebirth through chanting the Buddha's name. Some people practice Fawa in Tibetan Buddhism, visualizing their own mind as the seed syllable of Amitabha's heart mantra or the syllable Sha, and so on. Then, using methods like hung or fat, some people may even die quite suddenly in a car accident or due to some unexpected event. At such times, we also have an instantaneous method of rebirth. That is to say, in a single instant. If something happens, recite Amitabha Buddha's name and immediately merge your mind with the mind of Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha Buddha's truly inconceivable vows and my own profound faith. When these causes and conditions are fully complete, anything can go exactly as you wish, and truly everything can be attained. So I sincerely hope that many of us, especially those who already possess a strong faith, can diligently work to transform it into a truly right and accurate faith. And those who don't have faith, you can also take a look and reflect. In our world, perhaps only those with faith have a true sense of belonging in life. Of course, it's also fine not to have faith. But the most important thing is, once you have faith, it's necessary to study theory systematically and have practical experience in cultivation. Life is very short. If we spend every day muddled and confused by the time we die, we haven't reached any state, and ultimately end up exactly the same as ordinary people, just like everyone else. It seems a bit of a pity. Because around us, there are many practitioners. They are also human, but they practice very well. In this situation, as practitioners, we should have a tolerant mindset, and at the same time, we ourselves should practice some essential and effective methods. With the blessings of lineage masters and great teachers of the past, along with our own faith, when these causes and conditions come together, we will be happy in this life and in future lives as well. All right, that's all I have to say for today. Thank you very much.